Good morning and welcome to another episode of Tanda Tula Sofa Safari with myself, Chad. I'm back after a very relaxing and enjoyable 2-week break spent in the bush, naturally. Where else would a game ranger go on holiday? And we're kickstarting this episode with the gorgeous Thumbela, who is resting up in a stunning knobthorn tree a couple of kilometers from camp. She's been here for a couple of days now with an impala kill and her cub. No sign of her cub at the moment. We did see him here yesterday afternoon. He's getting much bigger. I mean, he's just over 4 months old now, but he's starting to lose that real cubby appearance. He was resting in a peltiforum yesterday, a wattle tree. He's probably hanging around there again today, but we'll just spend a little bit of time with Mom now to see what she gets up to. And if not much, then we're going to go try see if we can catch up with the river pride. But yeah, look forward to being back in action here on Sofa Safaris. Missed being out here in the heart of the Timbavati. It's really a special place, and can't wait to see what today's episode brings from us to you. So sit back and enjoy. Beautiful sight to have seen leaving camp this morning. Silhouette of a leopard against a slightly gloomy start to the day. And to see from the trees, probably hear from the audio here, that it's quite windy outside, and forecast only to get windier through the day. They've got another weather system moving in over this coming weekend, so we're expecting some more rain in the area, which we should never snub. But yeah, looking forward to having some dry periods in the not too distant future. But yeah, the bush is still looking magnificent. So yesterday afternoon was actually quite an impressive one on the leopard front. We got to see Thumbela and her youngster at the starter drive, and then a little later on, we had actually driven past her, not seen her, and then the next vehicle that came from the other direction called us to say, oh no, Nweti is sitting up in a marula tree not far from Shutton Dam. So I went and had a look at her, and then I believe just after we closed down, the others found Nialeti and Shigodo. So 5 leopards in an afternoon with only 3 vehicles out was not a bad return. So yeah, we're hoping that despite the bush being as lush and thick as it is, that these leopards stick to what they've been doing now, sitting up in these beautiful trees, walking in the open and just trying to avoid the long grass where possible. It's a trend that we often see during the height of summer, where you think it would be almost impossible to find these cats. We do actually tend to have some pretty good viewing, because as thick as the bush appears to us, you can imagine when you're a leopard that's only a couple of feet high, or a little bit more than a couple of feet high, it's as unpleasant walking in the long grass. So they're going to struggle to see over it, so they're going to ascend these large beautiful trees like this knobthorn that Thumbela is in. I'm sorry, getting confused with all the leopards, and use this as a lookout. Obviously she's lying here now not as a lookout, she's lying here because she has got the remains of a kill. Not much of it. It almost looks as though she got the scraps back from a hyena, and it doesn't actually appear as though they've eaten a great deal in the last 24 hours. There was probably about as much last night when we were with them, and in the morning the guys also said no, she'll probably be there in the afternoon and that's it. But you know, if you have got full bellies and you've got no need to rush your food because it is safely stashed up in a tree, then take your time, eat when you want, and just enjoy life at the top of the food chain. But yeah, she's resting nice and safely up there. There may have been some hyenas skulking around that have sent her up there and maybe sent her youngster off in a different direction. But yeah, we'll give it a little bit more time and see if he pops out. So Thumbela was calling for the cub. It sounded quite desperate. I was getting a little bit worried, but look who's pitched up underneath the tree. Let's give it a while, and hopefully he decides to go up and join Mom. so he managed to sneak up the back of the tree while I was trying to film. But yeah, straight up to the carcass. And you can see even at just over 4 months old, very agile in the trees, very confident. Straight up to the carcass, didn't even go greet mom. Ooh, there we go, there's a scrap that's just fallen. I'm sure the hyenas will come running in now. But they, incredibly, as soon as he was up there, they started moving in. It didn't take them long to pick up on the presence of a leopard feeding, and they actually have quite a good chance, while he is the one that is feeding, to get something. He hasn't got the same experience, maybe doesn't quite know how to position the kill in the branches, and if he makes any mistake or tugs on the wrong piece and half of it falls down, this is exactly what the hyenas are waiting for. Mom is just lying there very patient, and she sat up and watched intently as these hyenas started coming in. See 2 of them behind me now, and she's letting her youngster feed. He will learn from these mistakes. There's really not there goes a camera. Really not a great deal of meat left on the carcass, so you know, if they lose it now, it's not the end of the world. They would have had a good feed. It looks almost as though she has stolen it back from hyenas at some point. But that being said, the fact that this little bit of meat lasted them over 2 days is quite remarkable. There's as much meat now as there was yesterday, and maybe they had actually just fed very, very well. But quite a scene, these 2 leopards perched up in this tree, silhouetted against a gloomy and windy sky. So I really do apologize if the wind is being picked up in this mic. It's quite difficult to avoid it when it's gusting like this, but for now though, let's just enjoy the scene of Thumbela's youngster munching on his, or not his mom's kill, and so nice to see him gaining a little bit more confidence, still far away from what his mom is, but it's positive steps. I'm sure within the next couple of months he's going to be super relaxed. Sightings like this that allow us to spend a couple of days in their company during drive times is going to build up that confidence slowly. We just got to keep on finding them on a regular basis to ensure that he doesn't become sensitive to our presence again. And I'm sure over the course of the next 1.5 to 2 years he's going to provide some great viewing. It almost looks as though he's frozen dead still, standing there perched on his back legs, watching the hyena, no doubt, who's milling around on the other side of the tree. Can't actually see it from our position now, but it's just going to be waiting patiently for this youngster to make a mistake. Almost a picture-perfect scene with us silhouetted against the sky, standing on that beautiful diagonal branch, clean background. Just what you want when you're looking for leopards up in trees. It's a knobthorn tree, which is not their typical trees for resting in. Normally you'll find them up in marula trees, hoisting their kills up into marulas, but you know, you take what you can get, and the area that she's in now doesn't have any marulas close by, so this would have been the most suitable for her, and not the most difficult, because the first fork is maybe about 2.5-3 meters off the ground, so easy enough for her to have made that first leap, got the kill into the first fork, and then taken it up from there. Now, if they had eaten it on the ground, if the hyenas had taken their fair bit of it, then it would have been a much easier hoist. But you know, once it's up there, it requires effort, but then you can at least sit back and relax and know that these hyenas are not going to bother you. And this always puzzles me, why she doesn't take her kills up trees more often. Very frequently we find her keeping her kills on the ground and ending up losing it to the hyenas. But fortunately this time is different. I'm actually going to try reposition, so if you can get a different view of the cub. This wind is really picking up, so I hope the audio is not too bad, but it's going to make for difficult filming against pale sky, but let's see what we can get from the other side. when you see him feeding like that, you can understand why he's growing so big so quickly. You can see those little teeth of his nice and sharp and more than capable of chewing through that meat at the moment, even though he's still going to be drinking milk and relying on mom for milk for the next 1.5 to 2 months. Normally at around 6 months old they're weaned and on a completely meat diet. But yeah, what a wonderful sight to see two incredibly beautiful creatures perched up in an incredibly beautiful tree. So we'll give them a little bit more time. We'd like to see some interaction between the youngster and mom, but he seems very engrossed in his meal at the moment. The wind is howling past us still as the clouds roll in. A little bit of rain falling, but not forecast or anything just yet, so we'll see what happens. So the little guy has now finished his feeding session, and looks like he's going to want to go and join up with his mother and greet her. But you can see her first reaction as soon as he's left is to go and get some of that food for herself. It is very, very rare for us to see leopards feeding on kills at the same time together. They always alternate. I think in all of my guiding, maybe on 2 or 3 occasions, actually seen multiple leopards feeding at the same time. Otherwise it's always one feeding, normally the youngster. As soon as it's finished, then the mom goes. And that's just what is happening now. The little boy is now deciding to do a bit of grooming. You're probably not going to get the audio from this with all the wind, but he's whining much better. And it looks like he might decide to go and join mom, which is going to be unlikely to please her. Just being a little bit hesitant making his way up there. Just standing, watching, analysing. But looks as though he's going to go. It will be interesting to see what mom's reaction is to this. And as you can see, not a very pleasant one. She doesn't want to give that food away, but he's being very determined, and looks like he's got a bit of it. In fact, it looks like he might get the whole dang shoot, much to mom's disgust. She's actually moving away now because the hyenas are coming in. She's going to be a bit concerned by this commotion that's caused them to arrive back, just growling her displeasure and leaving the boy with the spoils. Very patient mom in a way. Yes, she went for him, but yeah, she's been sitting there waiting for him to feed the whole morning, so what's another feeding session from him going to do to her? Probably not much. That's been a pretty special 2 hours spent in the company of those cats. A little bit of rain, a lot of wind, but for that sighting, well worth it. I was sitting hoping for that interaction that eventually came, and yeah, what a bonus. So we're gonna be moving on now. We'll see how much longer we can stay up now, because the rain is starting to come. Just want to go check up on the den site of the River Pride. If not, we will head back and carry on filming on the next drive. But let's make our way over towards where Ginger and Gibbon found the lion den site a couple of days ago. Now I've stumbled upon a pair of ostrich, and I won't be surprised if these are the same individuals that have the 8 chicks. They're in such long grass now, I mean you can just see their backs and their heads above it, so there's no chance of seeing the chicks now, but we'll try get round and see if they are with them. It's such an odd sight. You can maybe just see their heads in the bottom left, behind that tall red grass. Here they come. So this is a fantastic sighting of this little pride of ostriches. We saw them about a month ago. I would have to double check the dates, but it was probably around 4 or 5 weeks ago. That would have been the same group, 8 youngsters, and they're all still doing well. When we first saw them, they must have been a few days old. But these chicks grow very quickly. Reading up about them, they attain about 3 kilograms of weight at 3 weeks, around 5 kilograms of weight at 7 weeks, 10 kilograms of weight at 10 weeks, and then they grow up to about 85 kilograms at a year old, at which time they're adult height. So it takes them about a year to get to adult height, but not quite adult weight. Adults weigh in excess of 100 kilograms. But so at what these guys, I'm going to call it 5-6 weeks old now, they will be close to 5 kilograms and growing. Yeah, they were an awful lot smaller, but not only are they growing in size, also growing in confidence. I mean, they came feeding on the grass island in the middle of the road to about 20 meters from the car. Adults seemed a little bit more concerned about us than they were, which is really great. I've never, in all my guiding years here in the Timbavati, had ostriches like this, so what a privilege to see. The adults obviously have to be a little nervous when these youngsters are this small. They're very susceptible. Even adults are susceptible to predation from lion, leopard, cheetah. These chicks are no exception. Lions, I imagine, would be able to go through this little pride in no time. I see they're coming back now, chicks in tow. But adults, very good eyesight, great height advantage. The chicks have got that camouflage on their side, and when the grass is this long they can hide easily, but I'm sure any predator that sees the behavior of these ostriches may come and check to see what is going on. So off they go. What a special sighting. Coming back onto the road. These guys, yeah, sorry, so it's not only the predators, but also the sudden changes in weather, cold weather, wet weather, could affect them. And then they also say internal parasites, which I imagine would be a little bit more prolific perhaps during the summer months. But yeah, a real treat to have these guys hanging around and to see them doing it successfully. That's eight youngsters still alive of the 8 that hatched, and based on studies in Kenya, that's actually pretty good. They found that about a third of the eggs that the adults sit on hatch, and of those works out to around 8 young per nest, or 7.5 young per nest. Only about 1 will make it to adulthood. So to have 8 out of 8 at the moment is very good going, and we wish this pair best of luck. Oh, sorry, I hope that's not too windy. And I hope we'll be able to follow their progress here on Surface Safaris. No luck at the lion den site, so I'm going to call it a morning. morning of moms and babies, which was great, and we'll carry on adding to this episode either this afternoon or tomorrow. So yesterday afternoon was a bit of a non-event due to the arrival of some rain. A persistent drizzle would probably be the best way of describing it. It wasn't the most pleasant conditions, especially not to go out filming. So I didn't head out and drive, which is a bit of a pity because got a message from Brittany that her and Luke had seen a pack of wild dogs on our access road as they were heading into town yesterday. So that was quite early. They didn't have a radio to call us, so the dogs had all of yesterday morning plus the afternoon in perfect wild dog conditions to go running around. We are going to be operating out to the eastern side again today, seeing if there's any sign of them, and hoping to pick up some potential signs of our river pride and the cub, which I'm dying to see. So let's carry on with this episode and see what today's drive can add to it. I found a nice grouping of zebras and wildebeest and impalas over here. He's snorting away much better, this dominant male, but I'm sure that is nothing more than snorting at us. Impala's looking quite relaxed. Time of plenty for these grazing animals. A lot of good grass is growing this year. Bears repeating, but not necessarily an ideal year for them because of just how long and tall the grass can grow after such good rain. It makes the element of survival that little bit tougher. It just provides more cover for the predators to hide in, and it does make these plains game species more vulnerable. It is why we're finding them out in the slightly more open areas, shorter grass areas, sodic areas. Just going to improve their visibility somewhat. Very odd sound coming from the bushes. Hear that screaming of some sort. It's almost the only thing I can think of, maybe hyena. Whatever the sound is, doesn't sound great for whoever's making it. So that was a very peculiar sound. Definitely sounded like something in distress. It sounded predator-like to me. Maybe not a hyena, but maybe something smaller, a jackal or goodness knows. But the bigger game around here, the impalas, the wildebeest, the zebras, they didn't pay too much attention to it, so I'm not sure. Nothing triggered a flight response. It's quite a sensitive area, so I don't want to go driving off-road unnecessarily, but you're really not sure what it was. A couple of episodes ago I was talking about one of our acacia trees, the, what was it, Vikellia Carew. I said it was a sweet thorn. Now that I've come back into that area, I've double checked and I said it's actually a scented pod thorn, Vikellia nilotica. It's got the seed pods now, much easier to identify than just on flowers and thorns. But while I'm out in this area, I also picked up one that's terribly common around, even though the name is a common false thorn, Albizia harvii. But this is one of our almost acacia lookalikes. And if we come in closer, you'll see it has the very same feather-like twice divided leaves that you'll find in your acacias, but if we look at the branch there, we're not going to see any thorns. So that is a giveaway. On most of your acacias, that's your Senegala or your Vaquilla genuses now, you'll find either the long white thorns or the short sharp hooked ones. But on these false thorns, you don't get that. The seed pods, it unfortunately hasn't got any now, but they also look very, very similar to those of the acacia genus. And yeah, if you just have a glance, they superficially look very, very similar to the old acacias. But anyway, it is not. It is a common false thorn, bushveld false thorn, and don't get particularly large in this area. Normally quite small shrubby-like trees. But that is your bush for this episode of Bizia harveyi. So I'm down on our southern boundary now. Out in the southeast. No sign for the wild dogs. Our tracks for one lioness walking along the boundary and then cutting into our concession. We'll have a little scratch around, see if we can have any joy with her. Grass time! This is one that I hadn't actually ever noticed before in the Timbavati, and I saw it when I was on my break in the Umbabat Reserve to the north of the Timbavati, called wild sorghum. Very large flower head or inflorescence with these prominent black seeds, and I don't know if you'll get to see it, but the most characteristic thing that stood out for me was this prominent ring of hairs around the nodes on the grass stalk, and a big white ring of hair. And yeah, speaking to the ecologist here, who's very, very clued up on his grasses, he says, you know, not a very common one here. Typically only grows after years of good rain, and he had only seen it at a few scattered locations and after the good rains. Hadn't seen good wild sorghum for a while, but this is it. Sorghum varicolor is the Latin name. Ooh, but good to see it growing. Very nutritious grass. So good to have for the animals. Maybe I should eat it. I'll stop acting like a klutz. Stopped a little further down the road for some zebras, and it's, sorry, I said sorghum varicolor. It's actually sorghum versicolor is the Latin name for our wild sorghum. And these are one of the species that would probably very much enjoy grazing on that highly nutritious grass. Nice foal, only a few weeks old. Still quite a number of pregnant mares around. So I'm sure the number of babies will increase over the coming weeks. And a slightly older foal, maybe a couple of months, 6 to 8 weeks. And off they go, a little nervy in the wind it seems. Lovely scene to see them in this lush green environment. Our spiders blowing in the wind. As the season has progressed, they've got noticeably larger, these females, constantly eating, and that's her shaking around, not me. That is a sizable prey item that she's got. Imagine trying to eat your dinner getting blown around like that. That ain't going to be fun. She's got it wrapped up in silk and going to be secreting her digestive juices onto it, and then letting it digest outside her body before she basically drinks it up as if it were a soup. Wonderful thought for the morning. Our golden orb-web spider. So I'm just ending off the day here with the hippo at Impala Dam, rolling over and just enjoying life with a nice full water hole. Not something that he often gets to experience here, but I think I'm going to call this episode done. It was great yesterday with the incredible sighting of Thumbela and her cub, as well as those ostriches. A few smaller things today. I did have some line tracks this morning. Scotch and Jack went out this afternoon, and right where I had the tracks they found the River Pride and the cub. Unfortunately I was on the wrong side of the reserve to be able to go and see them, but hopefully in the next episode they will make an appearance. So hope you've enjoyed this one regardless, and until next time, please stay safe, and we hope we will catch up again this time next week. Until then, cheerio.